What's up, guys? This is Ryan with Bogdewic Inspired Luxury, and this is my YouTube channel, I'm Watching You, where I build and modify watches, and I'm even in the process of building my own watch brand. So in today's video, we're going to be doing a modification of the Pagani Design PD-1668A. We're going to be doing the Lume and the golden rotor, and I also have a treat for you. I have my very own first watch that I made and created. This is the Bogdewic Inspired Luxury Ryan's Oak. I actually have this as my reproduction of the Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. As you'll see here, I got my own insignia on the dial. Let me get rid of that real quick, that finger. You see the insignia that I got on there? I also have decorated movement in the back. And it was hand polished and handcrafted in-house right here in my business. So I have this ready and available for purchase on my website. I'll put a link to that in the description. So let's get into the modification video, the Pagani Design PD-1668A. Let's flip the camera around and get to work. And here's the Pagani Design PD-1668A. I'm going to be doing all the Lume modifications on this. I'm doing the hands, the hour markers. And I'm also going to be replacing this rotor with a gold rotor. This is the rotor I'm going to be replacing it with. You'll see that it has a nice finish on her, and that's going to look really nice in there. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the end links out. These are solid end links. I'm just going to get my end link bar removal tool, and when I take them out, I'll just put the spring bars back here so I don't lose them. Now this is about the moment in time when I realized that this Pagani Design PD-1668A, the case back was put on by an 800-pound gorilla with a 20-foot wrench. I had the hardest time getting this off. It was literally stuck on there, and you'll see why in a second. So I finally got the case back off. Now it's coming off nice and easy. And when I finally get it off, I see all this dried grease and dirt that I'm going to get with a toothpick, just so I can show you how nasty this actually is. Then I'm going to remove the movement retainer ring. Just pop it out like this, and it comes out pretty easy. And then I'm going to put the case back on the case to keep all the dust out. Before I get to luming it, I'm going to set the hour, the minute hand, and the seconds hand to midnight, so that way I can take everything off. And then just keep the hands in this little safety dish. Before I get starting to lume this dial, I wanted to look at a Google image of the actual Tag Heuer Aqua Racer, and I want to see how the lume was done. Now, because of the fact that my quartz formula is proprietary to Bogdewic Inspired Luxury, I wanted to keep this proprietary. Didn't want to give away the secret to this, but I wanted to be as transparent as possible, so I am going to show you the step, but not the actual mixing of the quartz formula. So I got my quartz formula all mixed up at the end of this little small fine tip brush, and I'm just going to paint all the indices up with the quartz formula at the tip of the brush. And after applying the quartz on all the indices, hopefully you can see the crystalline structure of the quartz. And then I'm going to cover up the dial with a Dixie cup and allow the solvents and the lacquer to fully cure for 24 hours. Now, in order for the quartz to be fully effective, it has to be polished. So I'm going to use a toothpick and polish every single one of these indices out to make the quartz as smooth and as shiny as possible. And after the polish, the quartz is nice and shiny and smooth. Hopefully you can see the quartz crystalline structure in the indices. And with a quick blow of the dial, I'm just going to get rid of all the quartz dust from all the polishing. Now it's all polished and ready to reflect the light back through the lume. And yet another quality control issue I found on this Pagani Design was all the hour markers were not even glued in. So I took some clear nail polish and just glued them all in. And now it's time to marry the dial onto the movement and put them all back together. And now it's time to get the luminous paste ready. I got G for green or electric green. And then I have B for blue for lightning blue. I put the green in the bigger bowl and the blue in the smaller bowl. And then I get my paster, which is just basically Elmer's glue, and mix them all together. And then I'm going to apply water with my syringe to thin out the luminous paste, because I'm going to apply thin layers of lume to the indices and the hands. And I want to give you a quick lume shot of what the green and the blue are going to look like. The electric green and lightning blue are going to look pretty bright, but they're not going to look as bright as they would with the quartz refracting and reflecting back through the lume. Because the process of luming is proprietary to Bogdewic Inspired Luxury, I don't want to give away how many layers of lume I put on, but I put on many, many thin layers to give it a very bright and very long-lasting glow. So I first started off with electric green, now I'm applying the lightning blue. And as many thin layers as I added to electric green, I'm going to add the same amount of layers of lightning blue. This is where the magic of Bogdewic Inspired Luxury luming process comes into play, because as I'm luming over the quartz is going to refract and reflect the light through the lume many times over again, giving a much brighter and longer lasting glow. And before I polish the lume, I'm going to put it under a Dixie cup and let it cure for 24 hours. So while I'm waiting for the dial to fully cure, I figure I'd work on the hands. And because the seconds hand is painted, I'm going to separate it from the minute and the hour hand. The reason I do this is because I'm using acetone to strip the old lume off. And if I use acetone in the seconds hand because it's painted, it's going to strip that paint right off, and I don't want that. So instead what I do with the seconds hand is just scrape the lume off. Now I got myself a little jig with a toothpick and Rodico, and I'm just going to set the minute and the hour hand on top of this toothpick to get ready for lume. And because of proprietary reasons, again, I don't want to give away how many layers of lume I add to all the hands, but I do add many thin layers of lume, and I separate the electric green from the lightning blue. And after I allowed the lume to cure for 24 hours, I'm going to apply the quartz mixture. With this quartz on the underside of the hands, you'll see why it's called electric green and lightning blue. And then I'm going to show you the actual quartz applied. Hopefully you can see the crystalline structure in it. And I place them under a Dixie cup and let them cure for 24 hours. And now I'm going to polish the lume, but before I do that, I want to give you a quick lume shot.
So before we get to the lume shot, I do want to tell you about today's sponsor, which is Bogdewic Inspired Luxury.
This is Bogdewic Inspired Luxury. When it comes to Bogdewic, you are the inspiration. Your investment in a Bogdewic luxury watch carries with it the satisfaction of knowing that 35% of your investment goes towards feeding a homeless family or sheltering a veteran. Every Bogdewic luxury watch is hand-built with an ambition to give you a work of art. Along with it, the hope to ignite your magnanimity to those in need.
Okay, let's get back into the modification video.
You're going to see why I call this electric green and lightning blue here in about 2 seconds. Now if you see how bright that is, that's the quartz refracting and reflecting the light through the lume over and over many times again. I went and polished the lume off camera, and now I'm applying the hour hand and the minute hand. But before I check the minute hand, I want to check the hour hand for clearance and make sure that it's nice and set. Then I go ahead and apply the minute hand the same way, press it down, check that for clearance and make sure that it's nice and set and got good even clearance. I want to give a tip to the pros when you're setting seconds hand. Everybody knows it's impossible. So what I do is I use Rodico at the end of the seconds hand setting tool. And I just pick up the seconds hand this way and apply the seconds hand onto the actual pin itself. Especially when you're working with like Swiss movements, they're really impossible to set this. So this tip works really great, as you see right here. So after checking the clearance of the seconds hand and making sure that it runs, I want to set the actual time for midnight, and I want to see how good I did on this. I'm usually pretty good at getting an NH35 set exactly at midnight. And I did it exactly at midnight. I don't think you can get any closer than that on an NH35. And just the last clearance check. And after a quick loom shot, now you'll see electric green and lightning blue. The secret to Bogdewic inspired luxury is the actual quartz itself, what makes it glow so bright and so long. The quartz will refract and reflect the light back through the loom over and over many times again. And I just want to give it one last blow to get all the dust off. And then I'm going to clean all that garbage grease and dirt off with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol and a cotton swab. And then I'm going to take the case back gasket off and clean that up because it has some of that garbage grease and dirt and dust all over it. And I'm going to put it in my grease bin and grease up the actual gasket. And I want to clean the case back itself before I put the gasket back on to remove all that garbage grease and dirt and dust from it. And then I'm going to take the gasket out and put it right back on the case back. And I'm going to marry the movement to the actual case and get everything all ready for assembly. So before I put the case back on, I do want to change the rotor out to this gold rotor. And after applying the gold rotor, I'm going to go ahead and put the case back on. And then there you have it. That is a decorated rotor. I think that looks a lot better than the actual rotor itself from the NH35. And never mind the mess as I showed you the watch. I think every watchmaker has a big mess when they're working on watches. Normally I put every tool away after each step, but because there were so many QC issues with this Pagani design, I had to keep all the tools out. And last but not least, we're going to change the pip out to electric green, but before we do that, we've got to fill in the pip with the quartz mixture and then put in the actual electric green loom.
And there you have it, the Pagani design PD-1668A. I did the loom modification and the gold rotor. I got everything ready to go on this. I'm not going to sell this watch. This is my own personal watch. I'm keeping this one. I really like it a lot. So anybody who knows me knows that I'm an aspiring philanthropist, and I do want to make sure that I give as much as I can to those in need. That's why with Bogdewic Inspired Luxury Ryan's Oak, every purchase that is made on this watch, 35% of it is going to go towards feeding a homeless family or sheltering a veteran. So if you want to look for the link of that in the description, I got the link to where you can purchase this watch. So take comfort in knowing the fact that 35% of your investment in Bogdewic Inspired Luxury Ryan's Oak is going to go towards feeding a homeless family or sheltering a veteran. I am an aspiring philanthropist, and I do want to make sure that I give back as much as I possibly can and help those who are in need. So anyway, this is Ryan with Bogdewic Inspired Luxury, and this is my YouTube channel. I'm watching you. Take care, guys.